Good day, this is Master the Genius, and today I want to do the part two, the second part of how to analyze poem like a pro, featuring Once Upon a Time by Gabriel Okara. You remember the last time we came here, we were able, I think we did like four stanza, so this is the completion. And here I will give us a clear note on how to analyze poem, what you look out for anytime you want to analyze any poem. So if you apply it to any other poem, it will be good for you. All right, without wasting our time, let's go into it. Okay, so and I've learned to laugh with only my teeth. Let's do a refresher course. Don't forget that at the beginning, it was the poet, the personnel in this poem was addressing his son, telling his son how that people used to be sincerely and genuinely loving, but at some point people changed and became hypocrite. Now, in this stanza, he's now saying that he then began to adapt to what is going on in his society, which is one of the themes that we find in this poem. That the forces of the society became so strong that even the poet that was lamenting what was happening, he saw that what was going on was not good, but yet he adapted. So at some point, he also became hypocritical. He also became fake. He also starts sharing love and smile that is not genuine. So that is what will be explored in this. That's what will be explored in this following stanza. And I have learned to laugh only my teeth, with only my teeth, and shake hand without my heart. I have also learned to say goodbye when I mean good riddance. So this is irony. This is irony. This is irony. You know that in literature, actually we have three types of irony. So don't get it twisted. We have three types of irony. We have verbal irony. We have verbal irony. We have dramatic irony, and we have situational irony. Situational irony. So verbal irony has to do with saying direct opposite of what one meant to say. So if you mean you are bored, but you are telling the person that I'm glad seeing you, that is ironic. Why dramatic irony happens in drama? So dramatic irony is when the audience has more knowledge about what is going on in a play than a character. That is dramatic irony. And for situational irony is when what someone least expects to happen happens. For example, if you hear that the police station was robbed, what will come to your mind? Nobody will expect that a police station can be robbed. So when you hear something like this, it sounds awkward to you. It's something unexpected. All right, but we have irony here. So you see this man being ironic. I have also learned to say goodbye when I mean good riddance. So the man adopted to his society. So this poem also shows us the power of the society over individual. To say glad to meet you without being glad, and say it's been nice talking to you after being bored. But believe me, this is another theme. This is another theme. Believe me, but believe me, son, I want to be what I used to be. So this stanza is we are about to experience a change, a shift. So there is a change in the tone. There is a change in the tone of the poet now, because he's now longing for a change. There was a time at first stanza and second stanza, he noticed that there was something going on that is not good, hypocrisy and all that. At another stanza, he adopted into it. He adapted into it. He adopts those characters and attitude. But at another time, he is now longing to go back to when he used to be innocent. Don't forget, please bear this in mind, that the appearance of son here, why the word son is used, why brother is not used, why sister is not used, why the word son is used, is to connote, is to figurize, and is to symbolize innocence. Is to symbolize innocence. Is to symbolize innocence. That is why the word son is used, because later you will realize that the poet is now trying to say that, believe me, son, I want to be what I used to be when I was like you. So what is he saying? He's saying, I want to be as innocent as you are now. You know, a little child is without hypocrisy. A little child will say things as it is in his mind. When you offend a little child, it can easily forgive and forget. But an adult can hold on to offense for years. Because this poet, just like I said in our last class, that this poet also explore the innocence of a little child and the complexity of an adult. So it compares, there is contrast. There is this contrast between adulthood and childhood. So that childhood symbolizes innocence, while adulthood symbolizes complexity. All right, so let's go back. When I was like you, so this stanza exploit, the poet longing to change, the poet longing to go back to the days when he was innocent. When I was like you, I want to unlearn all these muting things. What are the muting things? What are the muting things? Because these are questions that you can be asked. That according to Gabriel Okara, in Once Upon a Time, discuss muting things. What are the muting things? They are the things that he has mentioned earlier, the vices that he has noticed in the society, which are hypocrisy, which are, emotion that are superficial, emotion that is not active, that does not have any connection with your heart. Talking about hypocrisy, emotion that are, superficial. Those are the muting things. Saying things that you don't mean, you understand? Doing good to people for the sake of greediness, what you can get from them. Don't forget there was a particular line that when people handshake you with their left hand, they search your empty pocket. Is to symbolize that the greeting, why they greet you, is to distract you from seeing their intention of trying to make out something from you. So they are greeting you not because they have found the greeting to be a good, expression of love and care for a fellow man. They are greeting you because of what they hope to get from you. Meanwhile, your pocket is empty. So which means people don't even care to even make out resources, even from people that don't have it. All right. So those are the muting things, because you can be asked that what are the muting things that the poet was referring to. Most of all, I want to relearn how to laugh. For my laugh in the mirror shows only my teeth like a snake bear fangs. The appearance of like here is simile. I told us already that when comparison are made with the use of as and like, that is simile in literature. For my laugh in the mirror. Now you need to know that this mirror is not literal. It's not literal. It's symbolic. It is symbolic. And what does it symbolize? The mirror here symbolizes reflection. Reflection. So this man is saying that when I look at myself, I realize that the kind of man I have become over years is a man that is not genuine, a man that is fake, a man that is hypocritical, a man that cannot love with all sincerity. That is the kind of man I have seen myself become over time. All right, so let's go to the last stanza. So show me, son, how to laugh. Show me how I used to laugh and smile. Was upon a time when I was like you. Now, the appearance of was upon a time, don't forget that at the beginning of the poem opened with was upon a time, and we also have was upon a time again. That is to show you that there is repetition. There's repetition, because those are things you need to note when you are analyzing poem, which I will also talk about now. And you also need to know that there are different kinds and there are different types of repetition. All right, so let me give you a clear note on what you look out for anytime you want to analyze poem. Now, when you are given any poem, the first question you are to ask is TP. What does TP mean? The poet. Who is the poet? So you must get yourself familiarized with the poet. So you must at least have a little glimpse, a little look into the story of the poet. And who is our poet here? Is Gabriel Okara. Gabriel Okara. That's our poet here. That is one when you want to analyze poem. Now, two is to ask yourself, what is the tone? What is the tone and mood? What is the tone and mood? Now, the tone and mood in this poem is nostalgic, It is nostalgic. I told you already that what nostalgia means is recollection, recall, or when you are reminiscing on what used to happen. So you even see how that poem opened. It opened with once upon a time. So the man is to show to you that the poet is about to connect the past to the present. That shows that from the first line of that poem, it shows nostalgia already. So the tone is nostalgic. The tone is also regretful. You see that later he was regretting the fact that he adapted he adopted those bad attitude, and he adapted to the vices that is going on in the society. At some point he was sounding regretful, and another one is hopeful. So the tone and the mood is nostalgic, regretful, and hopeful. You see that at some point he was trying to recall what used to happen. Then another time he was trying to regret how that he also has adapted to the anomalies. And at some point he was now hopeful that a change can still come. So that is the tone and the mood. So you must, through the poem, look at it to be able to ascertain the tone and mood of the poet, because you can be asked question maybe in your SSE exam that you should comment on the tone and mood of Gabriel Okada in Once Upon a Time, or in your jam, whatever exam you are preparing for. All right, the next thing you will ask, the next question you must answer when you are analyzing a poem is T sub. What do I mean by T sub? What do I mean by T sub? T sub means themes and subthemes. Themes means subject matter. So what is the main point? What is the point that is being discussed? What are the points that are being explored in the poem? So if you check the poem, you see that we have the theme of innocence. We have the theme of innocence. We have the theme of hypocrisy. Yes, we have the theme of insincerity, and we also have the theme of hope, and so on. But what is the main theme? Because you can be asked, if you are given any work of art, you can find about 10 to 15 to 5 to 4 themes. But there will always be one main theme, while other themes will now be sub-themes. Other theme will be sub-theme. So there will always be one subject matter. Now, if you are asked in this case that what is the main theme of this poem, the main theme of this poem is loss of innocence. Is loss of innocence. Is loss of innocence. That's the main theme. But other themes that we find there is theme of innocence itself, theme of hypocrisy, theme of insincerity, theme of greediness, and theme of hope. But the main thing is loss of innocence. The poem really explores how people lose their innocence, how people no longer love genuinely, how people no longer love with sincerity. All right. So that is the next question to answer, is to ask that what are the themes being explored in this poem? And now under those themes, you now divide it to theme, main theme, major theme, and sub-themes. All right. Now, the next question to answer when you are analyzing poem is to do SF. What do I call SF? SF is structure and form. Structure and form. Structure and form. If you look at the form of this poem, you will see that it's a dramatic monologue. Dramatic monologue. Dramatic monologue. Monologue means a speech rendered by one character, because molo means one. Molo means one. Log is from the word logos, and logos means word. So you realize that in this poem, it was not a dialogue. It was not an exchange of conversation between two or more people. It was just one person that is talking. Even the son that he was talking to was not responding, to show that it was not a dialogue. So it was actually a dramatic monologue. Now, what is the structure? This poem is a poem of, I think, 44 lines. 44 lines with seven irregular stanzas. 7 irregular stanzas. What do I mean by irregular stanza? The stanza does not have the same length. The stanza does not have the same length and with no rhyming scheme. So when you say you have irregular lines or irregular stanza, is to say that the lines that is in that particular stanza does not have the same length and does not have a rhyme scheme. Does not have a rhyme scheme. If you look at this poem now, there's no rhyme scheme to it. So it shows that it is a poem of 44 lines and 7 irregular stanzas. So you answer the question of form and structure. Another question you want to answer in analyzing poem is to answer the question of the question of diction. Because you can be asked to comment on the diction of the poem Once Upon a Time. What is the meaning of diction? Diction means use of word. Use of word. How does the poet use word? You know, there are some poets that the way they use word is so complicated that you may need a dictionary or you may need to think and rack your brain before you can understand what they are trying to say. But if you look at this poem, the poet tried as much as possible to use simple language that can be understood by a layman. All right. So if we want to check the choice of word or the use of word, is it that choice of word or use of word of this poem, we will say he used a simple, it is simple, that he chose a simple diction. He used, anybody can study this poem and just understand. He used direct words that can be understood even by anyone that is, illiterate. So he didn't use literary jargon. He didn't use literary jargon that you will need a literary dictionary to understand, a literature dictionary to understand it, so to say. All right, so that is that for diction. So his choice of word, his use of word is so simple. He's so simple in his approach towards diction. Now, the next question you want to ask yourself is that what type of poem is this poem? We have different type of poem. We have ballad, we have epic, we have narrative poem, we have epitaph, we have doubt, we have elegy, we have eulogy, we have panegyric, a lot of them. Now, the type of this poem, the type of poem that this poem is a didactic poem. A didactic poem. And I mentioned it in the last video that what didactic means in literature means any work of art that teaches moral. So you see that if you look at this one, this man is trying to pass across message. He's trying to teach moral. He's trying to decry and lament the societal vices, things that are going on in the society that is not meant to be so. So that is what makes this poem to be a didactic one. So you must answer what is the type of poem that the poem you are trying to analyze is. Now, another question to answer: what are the literary devices? What are the literary devices? For example, in this poem, there is use of repetition. Repetition. You see, once upon a time was repeated times without number. Shake hands without heart was repeated. Many things. Laugh with only my teeth, repeated many times. And I told you also that we have different forms and different types of repetition. Like we have assonance, we have consonance, we have alliteration, we have anaphora, and in fact we have epiphora, we have parallelism, and so on. But in this poem, the kind of repetition that was used over time is what you will call refrain. Then we also have alliteration. Alliteration. What is alliteration? Alliteration is the repetition of initial consonant sound. Alliteration is the repetition of initial consonant sound. Just like if you have something like this: father, Francis, fried, 5 fishes. Now look at it. This is repetition of F. So it happens at the initial. This alliterate F. All right, that is alliteration. Now for refrain. Refrain is when you repeat maybe a line, a particular phrase. When you repeat it again, that is refrain. It is still repetition, but it's a kind of repetition. Look at it. Once upon a time is like a phrase. It was repeated. Laughing without my heart is like a phrase. It was repeated. So that is what we call refrain. All right. So these two types of repetition are repetition that is used. So you have to check the poem vividly to write out every literary devices that you can see there. And another literary device I can see here is enjambment. 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 What is enjambment? Enjambment means run online. Run online. What does run online means? Is when an idea in one line run into another line. And I will give you example. Let me check where example is here. I have learned to laugh without. Let me check a typical example from here. All right, look at this. I have also learned to say goodbye when I mean good riddance. To say glad to meet you without being glad and say it's been nice. Now look at it. The idea that is being communicated here is not finished. So it has to continue here. So it means that this line run into this line. That's the meaning of enjambment. It's when an idea is not completed in a line that you now need to continue it in another line. That is what we call enjambment. That's why another name or another word for enjambment is run online. So you see something like without being glad and say it's been nice. So this line ran into this line. Let me see if we have another example. I want to be what I used to be when I was like you. I want to, now look at it. I want to, this is another line, this is another line. But this line will not make sense if this line is not there. But look at this second line here. I want to be what I used to be. Now that makes sense. The phrase makes sense. But if you look at this one, when I was like you, I want. Now, this phrase doesn't make sense to you without this. So, which means that this line needed to run into this line to make sense. That is enjambment. That's another literary device you see there. What other literary device? You see symbolism. Symbolism. So, there are many things that were used to symbolize or to mean another thing, like the word art. Art was used to mean genuineness or to mean sincerity. Teeth was used not literally, but to symbolize or to figurize or to mean superficial. Is to mean that you are doing something that you don't mean. So the man really explored the use of symbolism. And I told you already that even the usage of sun here also symbolizes something. Sun symbolizes innocence. Art symbolizes sincerity. Teeth, just smiling, laughing with people with your teeth, symbolizes, being fake or not being genuine. All right. Why? I also told you that sun symbolizes innocence and so on. So the man also used symbolism. And another literal device we see there is imagery. Imagery. And I told you already we have different types of imagery. And I will do that. I will take my time to teach you what imagery means. Imagery means mental picture. When you are reading a particular poem or work of art, what are the imagination you start having? There are times that someone can describe how a thunder sound to you, and it will be as though you can hear the thunder yourself just by description. So we have visual imagery, we have auditory. Auditory has to do with hearing, visual has to do with eyes. We have tactile. Tactile has to do with feeling and touch. We have gustatory, we have olfactory, we have kinetic, and so on and so forth. But in this poem, the man uses more of visual imagery. Visual imagery. Because if you are reading this poem, you can visualize, you can begin to have a mental picture of how people can greet without meaning, without how people can greet hypocritically. You can begin to visualize it as though you are seeing a movie, as though you are watching a video. So the man uses imagery, specifically visual imagery. And I told you visual imagery has to do with sight. Now, another question you ask yourself is the figure of speech. What are the figure of speech you can see there? Well, we can see irony. We can see personification. Personification is here. You shake hands with my heart. Shaking hands with your heart is personification. Because personification is when you use an attribute that is human to what is not human. That's personification. And we can also see metonymy. If you watch the last video, I told you where metonymy is there. And we can also see metaphor. If you watch my last video, I told you already where metaphor is there. And we can also see simile. Simile is here, and it's even in previous stanza that we have checked. So you see a lot of the figure of speech, and we also have even apostrophe. So we have metonymy, apostrophe, personification, simile, metaphor, and so on. Even synecdoche is there. All right, so that's another question. So if you are analyzing a poem, you check it line by line to write out every figure of speech that you can find in every line and in every stanza. And then you will now ask yourself, what is the dominant figure of speech? Because they can ask you that in the poem Once Upon a Time by Gabriel Okara, what is the dominant figure of speech? It means that figure of speech that appear more often than others. In a poem, you can have 5 to 6 figure of speech, but there will be a particular figure of speech that appear more. All right. So we have what appear more in this poem is contrast. We have contrast and metaphor. Contrast and metaphor. That's what appeared more. Because you see that all through the poem, the man was trying to compare and contrast what we used to have and what we now have. What we used to have and what we now have. All right. So in your journey towards analyzing poem brilliantly, you must be able to answer all these questions. If you are not able to answer all these questions, please, you are not successful in that poem. So when you pick any poem, number 1 question, who is the poet? Number 2 question, what is the tune and mood? Number 3 question, what are the themes and sub-themes? Number 4 question, what is the structure and the form of the poem? Another question, what is the diction? What type of poem it is? Another question, what are the literary devices that I can see in the poem? Another question, what are the figure of speech? Those are questions that you must answer. If you can brilliantly answer those questions, I'm telling you that you are already analyzing a poem, as a pro. And if you apply this logic to any poem, you are a pro that I declare all of you to be. So thank you very much for seeing through. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and drop your comments. And if you have any question, you can drop it for me in the comment box. And I also offer a free online tutorial for art students. And if you are interested, you can simplify your interest in the comment section. Thank you. Bye.